Hey everyone, Glenn Victor here, host of the podcast Dare Me. If you're about to tune into our program, we just wanted to give you fair warning that if you're easily triggered by mention of specific drugs, you may want to think twice about watching our program. Also, if you're easily offended by strong language, again, you may want to reconsider watching our program. We don't hold any punches. We keep it real, and it can get raw sometimes on this show. So just wanted to give you fair warning. We do hope you tune in, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Hey, Glenn, unmute your microphone.
Hey everyone, it's Glenn Victor. Welcome to the Dare Me podcast. I had my mic muted, man, right out of the gate. We had some challenges, but it's all good. Welcome to the program, everyone. We are into episode 3 now. It is Sunday, March 26, 2023. And really was looking forward to today's edition of the show. Really trying to fine-tune some things with some technical things. Of course, I forgot to unmute my mic, but at least I know we're going live on all the platforms and everything. We went live before we even started the show, just to make sure it was out there and everything. So we got that worked out. And we're really, really happy, again, with the feedback that we're getting on the program so far. This program, again, is geared toward trying to help people who may be caught up in the addiction to opiates and other drugs as well. This program certainly can be very informative and entertaining, quite frankly, to anyone at all. One of our hopes, though, is that someone who may be struggling with this whole opioid epidemic and addiction in general may come across this program and learn some things, hear some things, see some things that might help them to get through all that, come out the other side, and you know, just put all that madness behind them. So, anyways, with that being said, I'm going to tell a little bit more of my story and what led me to do this program, because I did get caught up in the whole opioid epidemic and became addicted to opiates for 9 years. Talked a lot about that on episode 2 of the program. If you're a person struggling with addiction to opiates and you come across this particular episode, highly encourage you to go back and watch episode 2, which again is posted on all the platforms, and we'll share more information about how you can get to that moving forward. And I'll talk a little bit more about it on this particular edition of the show and moving forward as well. But where I was going with that is our hope is that if we can help even just one person by doing this program and this show, it makes it all worth it. You know, it takes a little bit to put yourself out there the way I am. You know, you get a little self-conscious. You sometimes second-guess yourself, like, oh, my God, what am I doing? What have I done, you know? But the reason I say that is because we got a message after the program last week from a viewer, a listener, that we're going to share in just a moment. And it already feels to me like everything we're doing is already worth it. Even if we didn't do another program, what we've done so far has made it worth it. And certainly we're going to continue forward and keep going in the direction we're going. But I'm going to share that message with y'all in just a moment. Before we do, though, I got to bring in my partner in crime, Dean Baker. Dean is coming to you from Orlando, Florida. Hey, Dean, how's it going today?
Happy Sunday.
Yeah. Well, hey, Dean is my co-host and producer. Dean handles all the behind-the-scenes stuff, with the graphics, different camera shots, angles, and all
I
that
just
stuff.
don't handle mic muting.
Yeah. I didn't have my mic unmuted. And by the way, I'm coming to you from Sacramento, California. So Dean and I are on opposite ends of the country. And we can bring anybody else in live from anywhere in the world, actually. And hoping we might get some people interacting with the program today from up in the Midwest. Got a lot of contacts up in the Detroit, Michigan area, certainly around Central Florida and all too. You can become part of the conversation on this show, whether it be with the chat. You can also join in on camera. We can send a link in the chat that you can click on. We've had people do that on the first couple episodes. If you're not comfortable being on camera, we can provide a phone number where we can talk to you live or in the chat. We've had a lot of participation first couple shows. I was actually kind of surprised how much participation we had. Were you, Dean?
Yeah. Anytime where you're doing a new show, sometimes it just takes a while to find your feet and find your audience. And we've had surprisingly great results.
Yeah, and even with the recorded versions of the show, man, I was looking at some of the numbers, and man, we've had over 100 views of both of them programs.
Great,
So.
great.
And that leads me into where I was going when we started today is some of the feedback we've been getting. And I'd like to share this particular direct message we got. Not going to go into who it was and, their whole story and everything, but it is a person that sent us this message. And Dean, if you could bring that up right now, let's look at this. Says, yo, I'm listening to episode 1 of Dare Me. My brother is going through serious addiction issues right now, and I just wanted to thank you. Man, I'm trying not to get filled up reading this. I wanted to thank you for sharing your story and for doing what you're doing. So, man, just think about that for a second, y'all. That's what I'm
powerful,
talking about.
yeah.
Isn't that powerful, Dean? I mean,
You said you just needed one, right?
Yeah, just one. So I feel like we've already accomplished what we set out to do. And, as I've shared previously, I've committed to doing this program for at least one full year, every Sunday. And I mean,
We're
we're
already
gonna
getting
miss
a comment.
Yeah, we already got somebody joining in. Lori, hey, welcome.
Hi,
I'm going to
Lori.
talk with you in a minute, Lori. But, I feel like we've already accomplished what we set out to do just as a result of that one DM that I, wanted to show on the program today. And we've gotten some really good feedback as well. So, again, as I shared last week, and I did some promos leading up to today's show, reels and all that stuff you got to do that I put out there, it just makes me think to myself again what I said last week, that I feel like I have no right to keep to myself what happened with me with the whole opiate addiction, and what I went through when the latest stats show that about 220 people die every single day in the United States from an opiate overdose. So, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again today. By the time we finish this program, which will probably be, a little over an hour, between hour and a half, we're not on any set time clock with it or anything, somewhere around between 8 to 10 people are going to die from an opiate overdose. Just why we're doing this program, trying to help people get out of that madness. So to get a message like that just means the world to me because, like I said, especially coming from the professional world and worked, in corporate America and this business life that I had for 25 years, working in the media in Central Florida and Detroit, and for very conservative organizations, to put myself out there like this, you do get a little self-conscious sometimes and you second-guess yourself, but not anymore, man, not anymore. Not after getting a message like that. I am totally convinced, Dean, what we're doing here is already making a difference, and that just makes me so grateful and humble, by the way. I don't say that in any cocky kind of way, y'all. It just makes me grateful that I'm still sucking air, as we say, and still alive. Because I'll talk more as we go on with this program about some of the war stories and the hell and the shit I went through and put myself through, which is a good transition into something else I'm going to tease a little bit that I teased in last week's show and some of the promos leading up to today. On this edition of the program, y'all, talk about self-conscious and putting yourself out there. I am about to show y'all some before and after photographs.
You did promise a slideshow.
I did, and it's coming up, man, there's one photo in particular in there, y'all, that when you see it, man, it's going to blow your freaking mind. Hey, I see Shebang just joined in. He said, all the way from D-Town, baby. So we got Lori from Orlando on here already. We got Shebang from Detroit City. I'm in Sacramento. Dean's in Orlando. So, yeah, man, we're one nation under a groove, right? Nationwide. And anybody else who wants to chime in. I know we got some followers overseas, actually. We got people from Romania that watch, people from London, and, man, we can bring them in anytime we want to. So if y'all are catching this live, chime right in. But anyways.
Looks like we got a like from Junior. I'm sorry,
right
I'll call him
right
G.
on. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about G a little bit. I've promoted him a little bit. He is definitely going to be part of the show, but he did tell me, we already talked, he can't be on today. He's tied up with some other business, and he can't be on next week either. Yeah, him and my daughter-in-law, his wife, Awana, are going to be out of town. I'm kind of jelly. They're going to be down in the Keys next week. I'm very happy for him. But the week after that is when he's planning on, being like a featured guest, not just, in the chat or whatever. And look, John Bakashua, that's actually my sister, Carol. She said, Dearborn Heights in the house. So we got Dearborn Heights, Michigan, too. Hey, Carol and John, hope y'all enjoying the show. So anyways, yeah, I'm going to show the before and after pics, and there's one in there in particular, man. I'm not real proud to show it, but I'm going to show it because I want people to see the depths of which that shit can take you. Man, I see we just got Linda just chiming in from Indiana. So, man, we got good participation in this program. Which again,
I just reshared it to your site again, and it looks like everything is really running good. So you're probably going to have more and more and more. The numbers are growing. People are jumping in.
Good. Yeah, we had some, not to get into it, but we had some technical difficulties the first couple of weeks. But this week, we got on here a couple hours before the show to kind of tweak everything. And sure enough, I forgot to unmute my mic right out of the gate. But every other thing, it seems to be working well. So anyways, though, we do have an announcement. Hey, Stephanie's chiming in. Steph, how are you? I'm so glad to see you're participating in the show, too. And she's coming in from Michigan. So, where the hell was I? Oh, I wanted to make an announcement about the show. We're going to change the time. And Dean and I talked about this, during the course of the past week. And, I was really kind of thinking about just doing it for the summer, but I think it'll probably be a permanent change to the time. I was thinking about this last night, Dean. You remember my old boss, Tom. May he rest in peace, man. God, what a great leader he was, man. One of the best guys. He was like second dad to me. But I remember him telling me when I was a younger man, Glenn, one of the signs of a good manager is one who reserves the right to change his mind. And so when it comes to the time we go live with this program, we've changed our mind a little bit. And I kind of wanted to go this way in the beginning, but to be honest, Dean, I was trying to be a little conscious of your time being over on the East Coast, that we didn't go too late. But I've learned you're kind of more of a night person like me. So in any case, next week, starting next week, y'all, we're going to go live at 6 o'clock on the West Coast instead of 4 o'clock, and 9 o'clock on the East Coast instead of 7. We're back on daylight saving time, and of course, as spring and summer progress, it stays light out longer till like 9, 10 at night. And, on Sundays, the weather's nice, people are out doing shit, and so, no one's like watching live at, 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Maybe they are, you know what I mean? But we just feel like we might get to more people being a little bit later. In fact, I shared in something I posted just recently that, as a younger man, I remember listening I don't listen to a lot of commercial radio anymore, but I used to listen to, FM stations would do their weekly public service or community service programs on Sunday evenings. So it's kind of that line of thinking. 9 o'clock on the East Coast, I thought to myself, well, people are out all day. They get home, have a bite to eat, maybe sit down, put the TV on, start scrolling social media a little bit, and might, join in live. So anyway, without going too much further into that, starting next week, we're going to change the time, and we'll put promos out this week. There's Dean's got a graphic for it already. 6 o'clock West Coast. And by the way, Dean, I'm just going to point something out to you that was pointed out to me. Because we're on daylight saving time now, it's not PST or EST. That's Pacific Standard Time and Eastern Standard Time. So I just changed mine to PT and ET or whatever.
Okay.
So, I know, it's like so ridiculous what we do with this time shit, But anyway, people get the idea, We're going 6 o'clock West Coast starting next week, and then 9 o'clock on the East Coast. So that's that. So moving along, we talked about, I got some notes here, y'all, because I'm trying to follow along and keep Dean on the same page with things I want to talk about. Last night was a very special night for your old pal Glenn Victor. I've shared on this program, and those of y'all that follow my story know that I celebrated 2 years clean off of the opiates on March 11th. It was 2 weeks ago yesterday. And here in the Sacramento area, they have a big meeting on Saturdays. It's called Saturday Night Alive, and there's usually like 100 people or so at that meeting. And on the last Saturday of each month, anyone who celebrated a clean date milestone, anniversary, if you will, they call it a birthday out here, is presented, if they choose to, you go to this meeting, is presented with a medallion or a key tag. I got both last night. I actually got 2 medallions and a key tag, which I'm going to show you here in a second. And, you can have whoever you want present it to you. Most people will have their sponsor in the program present it. And so I had my sponsor, Shay, present it to me last night. And check it out, y'all. I'm going to show it. I got this really cool medallion. Time equals miracles, recovery equals life. It's got the Roman numeral 2 on it for my 2 years. And then on the other side, you can see it says a new way of life just for today. That's kind of a special medallion, yet, you pay a little more for it to get. This is the standard one that they give you in the NA program. And you can see it's got the logo and whatnot, and then here's the back of the thing. So you get the idea. And then I did get one of these already on my actual clean date of March 11th, but they gave me another one last night, clean and serene for multiple years of recovery, because now I do have over 2. So it was a really fun night last night, and we all went out to dinner afterwards. I posted a pic on my Facebook profile for anybody who may want to go look at it. We had a ball, man. We really did, laughing and joking, and there was a lot of time in that room last night, man, a lot of time. In fact, a buddy of mine, Dave, celebrated 26 years clean this month on the 23rd, and so he was there last night. So, once you get clean, man, there's so much cool stuff you can do, in and around the 12-step programs. I'm more of a NA guy, AA, NA, fucking A, as I like to say. But, there's so much cool stuff going on. And we had a ball last night, and that transitions me into the next point I wanted to make, a little promo for people. And again, I always want to clarify in this program and revert back to what I've talked about, how if you're watching this program and you're somebody who is currently addicted to opiates, you came across this program, you're looking for a way out. We will talk more about practical solutions. We covered a lot of that in episode 2 of the show, if you want to go back and look at all that stuff, but we'll talk more about it moving forward as well. I talked about how there's a common saying around the program where it's real easy to get a person clean. I don't know if I'd say easy, but the saying is any old asshole can get clean. Going to rehab, going to detox, going to treatment, whatever you want to call it, they'll get you clean. But how are you going to stay clean when you get out of there? That's where some of these other programs come into play, like the NAs, the AAs, the whatever A's, the 12 steps, other groups, Recover Out Loud, and different faith groups and different things. So that kind of leads me into where I was going with this, is there's always cool stuff going on, like what we had last night, the medallion night, and the going out to eat after and all that. Well, I wanted to do a little promo for a huge convention coming up. And you don't have to be clean to go to these events, you can just show up and learn and get information, and hopefully it might motivate you if you're looking for a way out, I never thought in a million years when I was originally clean that I might go to an NA event using, but I did because I had the desire. There's a saying around NA, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using, and also it said you're a member when you say you are. Nobody can decide that for you. So anyway, I keep dancing around it. There's a huge convention coming up here in Sacramento, April 6th through the 9th. It's the Northern California Convention of NA. And again, I want to put this disclaimer out there. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not a representative of NA or anything like that. I ain't trying to break no traditions or anything. I'm just, putting it out there, man. I'm just another addict trying to stay clean, putting one foot in front of the other, keep trying to do the next right thing. And this is an event that, this is public information, common knowledge stuff I'm just putting out there. There's a huge convention coming up. There it is. Dean pulled up the graphic. April 6th through 9th. And I was told by some people around here that this thing draws between like 6,000 and 8,000 people. It's not in Sacramento every single year. It's somewhere around Northern California. I think somebody said last night like 5 years since it's been in Sacramento. But this convention is going on like 20 minutes from where I live. Actually drove by the convention center a couple times in the last week or so, just being downtown for different things. So anyways, this is going to be awesome. And what I started to say is somebody told me that this is the second largest NA convention in the world other than the NA World Convention, which they do every few years. Of course, COVID threw a wrench and all that. The next one is in 2024. It's going to be in Washington, D.C., and I can talk more about it on some upcoming programs, but I've been to many, many world conventions of NA, and it is an unbelievable experience. So I'm really looking forward to that one coming up April 6th through the 9th here in Sacramento. And my boy Shabang, who's on the chat here, we've been talking about you coming out, bro. You can come out and stay at the crib here. And anybody else who would like to go, I highly encourage you. And I don't want to get into too much detail about what goes on there, but there's tons of speakers, breakout meetings, they're called workshops, marathon meetings. Like there's a marathon meeting that starts on Thursday and goes nonstop till the thing ends Sunday. It never ends. And there's all kinds of cool activities. They have dances and talent shows and just all kinds of networking, and it's just really, really cool. There's that old saying, you know, strength in numbers. And when you got 6,000 to 8,000 recovering people all gathered together, man, you really walk away feeling like, you know, you got this, you know, and you ride that wave for a long time after as well. So definitely encourage people to check that out. Okay, so moving along, you know, I mentioned the stats earlier, and man, that ain't no joke, you know. Think about that. 220 people a day dying from an opiate overdose. It just freaking blows my mind, man. I can't even, sometimes when I think about it, I can't even comprehend that, you know, that's what's going on. And again, that's just the United States. This is a worldwide epidemic and problem. And of course, one of the main culprits right now is the whole fentanyl thing. Everything's laced with fentanyl when it comes to these opiates, you know. Yeah, there you go. Dean's got a graphic up for us there, and it just blows my mind. So again, if you're looking for a way out, if you somehow got addicted to the opiates, highly encourage you to go back and review what we talked about last week. We did put some practical ideas out there about getting through it, you know. You may want to consider going into a rehab center, a drug treatment center, a detox, whatever it is. There's a lot of different things they can do to try to make the opiate withdrawals a little bit more bearable. Some people just don't want to do that. Like myself, when I kicked them, I had been in drug treatment before as a younger man. For whatever reason, and the mindset I was in at the time, I did not want to go back into a facility. I had made my mind up. I was kicking on my own, goddammit, you know, and you know, I didn't do it on my own. I did it with help of family and friends, but I did not go back into a facility, and man, did I rough it through the withdrawals. And there are things you can do if you choose to try to kick at home. We talked about some of those practical ideas last week, like using things like Kratom. Don't want to get into a long conversation about Kratom on this week's edition of the show. We can talk about it again more moving forward. What I'll say today is I encourage you, if you're looking to get through the withdrawals off of opiates, do some research on it online. Not telling you to do it, not telling you not to do it. Just telling you maybe you want to educate yourself on it. It is something I used that helped me through it. You know, you go into a facility, they may recommend things like Suboxone, Methadone. I chose not to go that route for a variety of reasons. The Kratom helped me. Smoking weed, you know, I know, yeah, it's a controversial thing, blah, 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 whatever, you know. I don't get caught up in that. What I will tell you is smoking weed during the withdrawal process made things easier for me. It took the edge off a little bit, helped with the depression, helped with the appetite, helped with the insomnia. It really was beneficial for me. Not telling you to smoke weed, not telling you not to, just telling you my story and what helped me through it. So again, you know, that kind of leads me up to, man, I've been dancing around this because I'm really kind of self-conscious about showing these goddamn pictures, but I promised y'all I'd do it. So I want to show y'all these before and after pics. You ready, Dean, to go down this path with the pics? I'm going to preface, we do have them in an order. We stacked them because I want y'all to see how I went from, you know, this clean and sober guy where I look, you know, some of them are a little older, but you can tell I'm clean-cut business guy, shirt and tie and suit, you know, worked in the media on TV and all that shit, businessman, and I look really good. And then you'll see the progression. I'm going to show you one where I'm hosting an event that Dean was actually at with some media people, and you'll see, man, you know, just by looking at my face and my eyes, that something ain't right. And then you're going to see this horrible picture of me in full-blown active addiction. And then I'm going to show you some where I had the big comeback. So you want to go ahead and start these, Dean? Let's go ahead.
Okay.
We'll bring up the first one. So, yeah, there I am. That was a long time ago, before I even had my first relapse. I was hosting a television program. I'll talk about this pic briefly before we move on. I was hosting a television program for Orange County TV and the Orange County Coalition for a Drug-Free Community in Central Florida. And I'm going to post those on the YouTube, and we'll talk about them more. We did one on, recovery for the individual, and we did one on managing a drug-free workplace. So that's that photo. You see I look pretty good, a little younger. Let's go to the next one.
You might be, what, 30s right there? Mid-30s?
No. I think I was in my 40s there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, yep. So let's go to the next one. There I am. That was the Managing a Drug-Free Workplace program that we did. So you can see I'm looking pretty good, Let's go. I got the poofy hair thing going on.
Right around this time, what were you on?
Nothing. I was completely clean and sober, and I had close to probably about 16 years clean.
Oh, wow.
Both of those two photos. Yeah, that was before my first relapse, because I've had 2 relapses. But let's go ahead and go to the next one.
Okay.
So there you can see, there I'm in my 50s. I was clean after my first relapse, which, that's a whole nother long story. But I probably had about, the first time I stayed clean for almost 17 years. I had a bad relapse for about 5 years, just mostly drinking alcohol and smoking a little weed. That's before I ever got caught up in the opiates. And then I went through a treatment center in Michigan called Brighton. And then I got clean for over 6 years before the whole opiate madness happened. So I'm probably right around, 50-ish, between 50 and, right around there in this picture. And you can see I'm looking okay, And then we go to the next picture, and now I'm in full-blown active opiate addiction. This picture is from 2017. And
your eyes are half closed.
Yeah, well, I posted
Puffy.
this. It came up in my memories on Facebook like a couple of weeks ago, so I went ahead and reposted it because it's so bizarre, man. I look at different pictures of myself anymore, and the first thing that comes to my mind was, okay, was this during my active addiction or before it or after it? This was right in the middle of it. This is from 2017. You were at this event, Dean. You very well may have been the one that, this is a still shot of a video that I snapped. Either you or one of your colleagues did this. But if you'll, for those of y'all in Central Florida, you'll know who, of course, Jim Payne is. And then he's a news anchor on Channel 2 in Orlando. And then you got the guy from Channel 6 here, my buddy. And if you look closely at their eyes, they're wide open, right?
Yep.
Look at mine, especially with Jim Payne, So I was high as they say, you know what I mean? I remember this day specifically, by the way. So the addiction had progressed. I had been using here for probably about, if that was 17... Let's see, and I got clean in 21. I don't know, 5, 6 years. I'd have to do the math. I had been using for a long time. That's Matt Austin, by the way, from Channel 6. I said my buddy. And so I think the next photo is the one that, man, y'all are going to cringe. So it progressed from here. I'm in full-blown active addiction, but still functional, to the next photo. Yeah, holy fucking cow. That's the one I was talking about, y'all, that I show it to people every now and then, and they'll be like, holy fuck, dude, that doesn't even look like you, bro. What do you think, Dean? Does that even look like me?
I'm floored. Look
it
at
looks
how
like a
puffy your face is.
Well, let me tell you the story of this photo. So I was looking back, and this is from January of 2020, that first week of the new year. I think it was around January 4th. To this day, I have no idea what
So that's
happened.
pre-pandemic. That's
Yeah.
pre-shutdown.
Well,
Say.
it was, yeah, but it was during that era. It had already started, but it wasn't like in full blown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, January hadn't shut down yet.
Yeah,
That was like
yeah.
March, I think were shut down.
Well, I can tell you this. I remember, and those of y'all in and around Orlando, well, no, there's an Irish bar at the corner of 436 and Forest City Road, and I somehow ended up there.
You got in a bar fight?
I don't know. Honest
You
to
probably
God.
got. I mean, that's not falling down unless
No,
you
no,
fell
no, no,
down
no,
10
no.
times.
Well,
you know.
something happened. All I know is I remember I was sitting at the bar. I was, definitely strung out on pills and things, and I was drinking. That was when I was trying to get through the withdrawals
Yeah.
and started drinking again to help me get through. And that was a huge mistake, as I talked about last week. I don't recommend that. But I was back to drinking Jameson and beers and shit like that. And I remember sitting at the bar, and I had done a couple shots or whatever and drinking some beers. Next thing I remember, I was being woke up on the ground in the parking lot by EMT paramedics who were wanting to take me to the hospital, and I refused to go. And they said, they checked my, vitals and all that shit. And I told them I just wanted to go home. That I do remember.
Yeah.
And so they got me an Uber, Lyft, or whatever it was, and I got home. And I woke up the next morning and looked in the mirror, and that's what I saw. And for some reason, I decided to take a photograph of myself. And I'm glad I did, And again, it's humiliating. Of course it's fucking humiliating for me to post this photo out here for the whole world to see. It's humiliating. And I was very on the fence about doing it, But I thought, like I said at the beginning of the show, I have no right not to. This is what happens, y'all. This is what fucking happens when you get caught up in the opiate addiction or the drinking addiction or whatever the hell you want to call it. One of the reasons that I was reluctant about putting this out there is not just for my own pride and ego, but my family as well. I get it, especially having a couple of kids, who, I've talked to my kids about this program. I've shared it on here before. Before I ever decided to do this program, I ran it by them and I said, hey, if this makes you uncomfortable, I will not do it. And they were both like, no, this is right up your alley, man. Do you? I've talked about, I want to be a part of the program. But it does, dawn on you, think to yourself, oh, my God, this is going to be humiliating to my family. But then I thought to myself, okay, how would my family rather me be? Like I am now, putting it all out there, or like this fucking guy in the picture? Okay, so, some of y'all might think I'm a nut, put myself out there like this. But like I've said, since we started this, if this helps even one person by showing this picture of what can happen, your old pal Glenn ending up like that.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is kind of a trendy thing to do in the Recover Out Loud community, showing these before and after type pics. So, I just said, fuck it, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So, okay, I've had enough of that one because I look like I'm fucking possessed in that picture. And believe me, I feel like I was possessed, man.
If I saw this guy, I wouldn't even know it was you.
Yeah, that's what people tell me.
From that time,
I
wouldn't have known it was you.
Well, I feel like I look at that picture and I feel like I was kidnapped, man. Like my life was hijacked. I got jacked, man. I look at that picture and I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? I don't even know who that guy is, But there I am. Unbelievable.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
Let me ask you a question. When know thyself. That's a big thing about, I would think, about recovery. Know your triggers, know what you're like, know how you are. Are you that kind of person that would pick a fight with somebody whether you're stoned or drunk or out of your mind?
That's a great question, Dean, because when you talk about people, especially drinkers, you have your angry drunks,
The
you
angry
have your
drunks.
happy drunks, you have your
Yes.
sad drunks who
Yes.
get all emotional. I was never like an angry drunk or a violent guy. That's why I say I look at this picture and I'm like, what the fuck happened? I had, you talk about blackouts. We've all heard of blackouts.
Yeah.
I had a blackout, and that shit's scary. When there's a little part of your life that is just gone, you have no fucking recollection of, that's that night. I remember sitting at the bar, and I remember being woke up in the parking lot. Getting home is kind of hazy, but that part in between sitting at the bar and waking up in the parking lot is gone. Thank you.
Well, yeah, we'll
Thank
take
you
it
for
off,
getting
yeah.
rid of that. Yeah.
No, I said that because
No, it was a good
right,
question.
and I've seen you drunk, or
Yeah, yeah.
drinking,
Yeah,
and
drinking,
and
yeah.
with an alcoholic, from my experience, right, some turn into Godzilla. You can't say anything to them because they just get ornery, and they want to step all over whatever situation they walk into. You remember a friend of mine, Mark.
I do. May he rest in
And
peace. Yeah.
yes, and his story, and we could save this for another week, but his end result is he said the wrong thing to the wrong person while he was drunk, and that unleashed just a spiral and to his own demise. And
Yeah, I remember Mark. Yeah. He
I
struggled.
that was this story I'm personally connected with because I went to college with him.
Yep.
And then I lived with him for a short time, and then when he fell down, I helped pick him up, which is
I remember. Yeah.
nothing you can try, but likely ain't gonna happen. And then I hear from a family member of his that he's passed.
Yeah. Well,
You know.
you make a good point, Dean. Unless somebody wants it, people can try to help all day, every day, but sometimes you're just enabling them. And we'll talk more about enabling people on another edition of the show. But yeah, I remember Mark, bro. And so, if I get where I think you're going with this, I have no idea what happened, because I look at that too and I'm thinking, God damn, I must have gotten a bad fight. I hope the other guy didn't come out looking too pretty, but
Let me ask you
I don't
this:
know.
do you know if you were robbed?
No, I was not robbed. I definitely was
Wow.
not robbed.
Wow.
I think what happened is, either I when I blacked out, maybe I made a smart ass comment to somebody else sitting at the bar who bit the shit out of me. Maybe I got cocky with the bartender and the bouncer beat the shit out of me and threw me out the door. Maybe I didn't get in a fight. It kind of looks like I did, but maybe I tripped on the curb when I was walking out and fell on my face, you know.
You could have face planted.
Could have been
yeah.
both. I don't know. That's what's so freaking scary about it is I have no idea. It truly was a blackout. And you know what's even more scary about it? Is that happened, I do remember, I think it was January 4th. I know it was that first week of 2020. I did not actually, get clean until a year and a half later. That was not enough for me to fucking, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? It just, I'm looking over at some of the comments. But anyway, so let's move on to some more pictures. I got more. So then, a lot of people hear me talk about how I ballooned up to 180. This is a picture of me with about 3 months clean. So this would have been April, May, June, about June of 2021. And this is in, a lot of y'all who follow my other stuff off the program hear me talk about my boy Shebang and his brother Shubang. This is in their music studio. And I was recording some music. They talked me into, recording a couple songs. And this is when I got hooked, actually, on the auto-tune thing that I'm obsessed with now and all. But you can see, man, look at the belly and them pudgy cheeks. This is what is commonly referred to in recovery as recovery belly. In other words, once you get clean, man, you get your appetite back and you start eating again.
Fat and happy.
Boy, did I start eating, man. You can tell. And I got, it's very common, especially for drinkers, you get obsessed with sugar. And I start drinking these damn caramel macchiatos from like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts and shit. And I had no idea, man. I looked it up after I started eating healthy again. Just one macchiato has like 60 grams of sugar in it. And it's like I started drinking 4 or 5 of them freaking things a day. So just cutting the sugar out of my diet, made a huge difference. But anyway, so when y'all, if you follow me like on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and you see I'm checking in at the gym all the time, I know that gets irritating. Some people think, oh, I'm a fuck thinking all that, checking in the gym all the time. I do it in part because it motivates me not to go back to this. And nothing against anybody who carries extra weight or pounds. I'm not trying to sound mean or evil toward anybody who's got, extra pounds or challenges with it. Do you, I'm just talking about me. To me, I'm not a very tall guy, as you know, Dan. I'm like 5'7", man. And so for me to get up to 180, I just felt. So let's go to the next picture. Because this one, look at my fat face, man. I look at that picture and I'm like, God damn, man, I do not want to be that big, bro. And that picture was right around the same time, a little bit actually later than that. You can tell my face, man.
Yeah.
It's like, I call that my fat face picture. I mean, look at that picture compared to me right now, So anyway, after I got, a few months behind me, I think probably about 4 or 5 months clean, maybe. That's when I decided, okay, I got to get in shape, man. And that's a good point. Let me talk about this. Again, I want to kind of get back to, again, the point of the show. If we got somebody watching who came across this show, who's struggling with opiate addiction or any other kind of addiction, you're looking for a way out and you want to get out of it. It is a sickness. It's a sickness. And it's a sickness that is mental. It hijacks our thinking. It's a spiritual thing, which we can talk about, and we will more moving forward, but it's also a physical thing. It definitely affects our physical health. And where I was going with that is I got to this point, and I said, that's it, man. I got to do something to put my physical health in check. And I consulted with my son, G, who I talk about a lot. I don't know anybody in better shape than him. I'm so proud of him. I think sometimes he saw the way I was living my life and decided to do the opposite because he lived so healthy, and he started coaching me because he truly is a gym rat. The guy goes to the gym every single day for, God, I think, 13, 14 years, whatever it's been. And so I started working out. I started going to the gym, started off slowly, and went from this picture to, let's see the next pic. There you go. Look at me. I lost that belly. Look at my face. This is actually, pardon all the dog toys on the floor in the background, but this was right before I left Orlando back in June of last year of 2022.
So what therapy are the dog toys?
Beg your pardon now?
What therapy includes dog toys again?
Yeah, well, hey,
Just
man.
kidding.
Well, there is that old saying when it comes to rescuing dogs, who rescued who, and my dog Jazzy, man, she definitely helped rescue me. So anyways, going from that pic there to, I'm trying to even remember what we have up next. So this is last September when I came out to Sacramento. And was looking for my place. And then the next photo is me once I moved to Sacramento. I think that's like last November. And then going on to there, that was just actually, I don't even think that was a month ago. I went to Orlando, actually when I met with you, Dean, to take care of some business. And G drove up from Miami. and we went to the gym together. That's at one of the Planet Fitness in Kissimmee. And I'm so proud of that picture, y'all. And I'm not showing these pics to like toot my own horn or anything. I swear to God, I'm not, y'all. It's not an ego thing in any way at all whatsoever. Obviously, I showed that fucking demon picture of mine. I call it the demon picture because I felt like I was possessed when I look at it. But I show these to show whoever baby watching this that it's possible. You can, man. Whew, I'm trying not to get filled up talking about it, y'all, because I know how hard I worked and how far I've come with the help, from that, to this, with the help of people like my son and family and friends and others, that you can transform yourself.
Hey, Glenn, I want to show you something.
Yes, please.
When you've been talking about therapy, I was on the CDC.gov website.
Yeah.
And let me throw that up here for a second. Here, let me find the right thing. Non-opioid therapies. So I'm not interested in the acetaminophen cognitive behavioral therapy. Look at the third one on the list.
Exercise therapy, including physical therapy. Yeah, there you go, man.
There you go.
That is it. It makes such a difference, y'all. And, I've had people jokingly but half seriously say to me, well, damn, man, you're like addicted to going to the gym now. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And it does become addicting because especially when you start to see that transformation like what you saw in that last photo of me there compared to the others, but it makes you feel good. It does. It gets the endorphins flowing and all that kind of stuff. Working out has been one of the best things that ever happened to me. I did it as a younger man. I was actually kind of an athletic kid. I played hockey for a couple of years. I was, involved with the wrestling team, football, baseball, all that stuff, But then as I got older and started using, you kind of back away from all that stuff. And so I say a lot, I'm in the best shape I've been in since I was a younger man like that, and it has worked wonders for me. So it's true. It is a physical sickness. You just start to let yourself go, and that's connected to your mental health as well, because your attitude becomes like, fuck it, I'm out here using, so what's the point of trying to stay in physical good shape anyways, So with all that said, I kind of wanted to transition into something we touched on a couple of weeks ago when we first started the program, Dean. And, we were talking about, me putting myself out there, and coming from, as you described it, Dean, the corporate world, corporate America. And I did. I worked for, a multi-million-dollar company for almost 25 years and worked in the news media in the Metro Detroit area, Central Florida area. I was, kind of a whole high-profile guy, Me and you did that TV show together, Dean, for 6 years. It's kind of weird, It really was, man. Not to compare apples to oranges, but, I'd be out in public sometimes, and people would just fucking come up to me, man. I remember being out to lunch once at Olive Garden, and some lady came up asking me to sign her fucking napkin, and I'd be at the Publix shopping and just feel like people were gawking at me. So the point I'm making, man, again, not to compare apples to oranges, but when you hear about all these like movie stars and shit bitching about the paparazzi and they have no privacy, it's like, I get that, man. It made me feel kind of creepy and weird just being, kind of a small fish in a big pond, doing the little bit of stuff I did working in the media. And just kind of creeps you out, But the point I'm making is, when I thought about doing this program, I thought to myself, okay, it can be very difficult, as it was for me, when you work in the professional world, to come forward with an addiction, to come out, as it were. there is that stigma attached to it. You know, most employers have what's called an EAP program. If they have a benefits program, you know, employee assistance program is what EAP stands for. Certainly they had it, you know, where I worked, you know, at the various places over the years, and I took advantage of it a couple times. And they're confidential, so if someone from the professional world may come across this and may be looking for a way out of an opiate addiction or whatever addiction it may be, by all means, do it. You know, it's confidential. It's a pain in the fucking ass. You know, the 800 numbers on the back of your insurance card, just call it. You know, and whoever comes on the line, you know, tell them, hey, I'd like to take advantage of the EAP program. And I think you get like 12 visits to some kind of, you know, counselor or therapist a year where you can go once a month, or I think you go every week for so long, whatever. Yeah, every program's a little bit unique in the way they do it. And they'll literally ask you, you know, well, is this substance abuse related, or are you just going through some challenges? Because some people may just want to, you know, take advantage of it because they're going through divorce or having personal issues, whatever the case may be. But they will ask you, you know, does this have to do with substance abuse? And the reason they ask is because they want to connect you with the right therapist, the right counselor. And for me, they literally they asked me if I wanted it texted to me or emailed. I said, oh, shit, you can text it. They texted me a list of therapists in the area that I could contact. And so I did. And one suggestion I'll have for anybody who may choose to utilize their EAP program is don't settle with the first one. You know, when we were out getting pills, we went doctor shopping, right? As the saying goes. Well, if you're looking for help and, you know, you take advantage of an EAP program, shop for the right therapist too. Because with all respect, and I have a lot of friends in that industry, if you will, that profession, I guess is a better way to say it. And I have a lot of respect for people that do that kind of work. I'll also say that there's different personalities out there. So you may not connect with the first one you meet. There were a couple that I had met with, and I was like, God damn, man, this person's crazier than I am, you know? And so I thought to myself, man, you listen to people's shit all day, you know, it's got to affect you a little bit. But the point I'm making is, you know, if you don't like the first one, don't throw in the towel on and say, this fucking shit, I ain't doing this, you know. Go visit with another one. Visit with another one. You know, I say the same thing about the 12-step meetings. Don't judge the whole 12-step group, whether it's NAAA or whatever group you go by, one meeting or one group of people you might meet. It's very, very eclectic. Keep going, and eventually you'll find a group or a meeting you connect with. So it's the same thing with these EAP programs. You know, it's all confidential. You don't have to worry about your employer finding out about it. They'll send you a list of therapists in your area, drug counselors, whatever. Go and meet with one. And if you don't feel like you connect with them, try another one, and it can help. At the very least, they can give you some good direction, some good information, some good feedback, can be a sounding board for you. If you're confused about whether you may want to go into a detox facility or a drug treatment center, a rehab, whatever, that's something they know about that they can give you good information on. You know, I did mention that, yeah, I do have colleagues and friends in that profession, and there's a couple I have in mind who I might like to have on the program at some point moving forward, who I know would be happy to do it. And not in a sales pitch kind of way or anything, you know, not trying to push their services on anybody, just to talk about the topic a little bit more. So where I'm going with, I guess, this whole thing is, I get it. If you work in the professional world, it's very difficult, challenging to go forward because you think, God, I could be risking my fucking career here, man. God, what if the word gets out or whatever, you know, my reputation, you know? And I get that. I went through that. That shit prolonged my addiction, my active using and addiction more than I can even describe. Well, I can't do that. Not me. I'm Glenn Victor. I'm that guy. I think my ego got in the way more than anything else with it. So I'll ask you this question, and then we'll move on to the next topic here. And Dean, it looked like you were going to ask me something, but let me just say this. What's more important, your fucking job, your career, your reputation, or your life? What's more important? I was living this phony life in this career and this job, trying to put up this front, like that photo we showed of me with, two high-profile news anchors in Orlando, Jim and Matt. And I'm fucked up. I'm like strung out on drugs in them pictures because I was trying to protect my reputation and my career and all that shit. And I was on the verge of death's door, y'all. You saw the demon picture, for God's sake. So if you're somebody from the professional world that may come across this program, you're looking for a way out, you're addicted to opiates or whatever drug it may be, I'm just going to ask you again, what's more important, your career, your job, your reputation, or your life? And I get it. People are going to say, well, hey, man, I got to fucking get paid. I can't afford There's a saying around the program. I want to make this point, and I do want to hear what you were going to ask, Dean. There's a saying around the program that it's a selfish program. And I've heard people, they take it out of context and they'll say, well, no, it's not. It's not a selfish program. This is the most loving, caring, giving program there is out there. We help each other. Well, they're taking it out of context. When they say it's a selfish program, what we mean by that is we have to put ourselves first. Because if we don't take care of ourselves first, we're going to lose all that other shit anyways that we're trying to hang on to, right? Because if we don't take care of ourselves first, the addiction keeps snowballing out of control till eventually you crash and burn and, God forbid, die, right? Which is happening all day, every day, as we talked about in the stats. So I get it, y'all. I get it. I totally get it. If you're in the professional world, you live a high-profile life, you're in the media, the public eye, whatever it may be, I get it, man. It's your career, your job, your livelihood, how you pay your bills, your reputation, and all that stuff. I was so preoccupied with how people were going to react when I started putting myself out there like this on social media back in June. I was so self-conscious about it, my ego kicking in and everything, like, oh God, what are people going to think of me? But I just feel like I was led to do this for whatever reason, not to flower it up. The point I'm making is once I came out with this whole thing, I have had more support, encouragement, feedback, people contacting me who just blows my mind and never would have thought in a million years would contact me, showing me love and support and encouragement, like that DM we shared at the beginning of the show, thanking us for doing this and for telling this story. So again, not to keep going on and on about it, y'all, but I'm just going to say it again. If you're from the professional world, the business world, you work in a high-profile position, whether it's a CEO or whatever the case may be, man, it happens to the best, that you get addicted to these fucking opiates out there and whatever drug it may be. What's more important, your life or your job and career? You can always get more money. You can always get another job, another career, but chances are you won't have to. You get the help you need, and you'll get more support and encouragement than I bet you ever imagined. So anyway, I think I made my point about that. Dean, it looked like you were wanting to chime in on something there with that whole point I just made.
A couple of points, a couple of reactions, let's just call it. Yeah. One was, and I've been trying to reformulate the question I want to ask you in my head a few times because I don't want to insult you. I don't want to insult our audience, but what do you say to somebody who is a school bus driver? addicted to opiates?
Great
What do you
question,
say to
Dean.
that person? You know, because they're in charge of children's lives. What do you say to that person?
That's a great question. And you know what? That transitions into something I wanted to kind of do a little promo on. I mentioned earlier in the program the Orange County Coalition for a Drug-Free Community. We posted those couple of pics where I hosted some television programs with them. Those are programs that are about an hour long each that we did, God, it's been a long time, man. It could have been close to 20 years ago, whatever it was.
VHS.
Yeah, but I had those, and I had Dean, upload them for me into Dropbox, so I have them in digital format, and I'm going to post those on the YouTube channel because I went back and watched them, and you know what, Dean? Every single bit of information in both of those programs is still relevant today, if not more. And part of the reason I bring them up is because the one program is all about managing a drug-free workplace. And we had a panel of 3 guys who are experts in that area, by the way. And so when it comes to professions like driving a school bus, we talked on the first show about, brain surgeons, airline pilots, those types of professions, chances are you're not going to have a school bus driver behind the wheel who is addicted to opiates or any other kind of drug because they're being drug tested if the employer is doing what they're supposed to do. Now, we've all heard and seen the stories on the news every now and then, they'll, especially because some guys are all on camera now, you'll have a school bus driver who maybe's loaded, and ran a stop sign or some crazy shit like that. That's going to happen. They're going to slip through the cracks from time to time. 9 times out of 10, though, in professions like that, people are going to be tested on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Pretty hard for them to get through. Now, what I will say is in the business world, most workplaces who do have what's an official drug-free workplace where they do random testing, it is random. Where your number comes up, they send you down to go get tested, but if your number don't come up, which like in my case for years, and that's another point I was going to make for those out there struggling, man. If you're struggling with an opiate addiction, I know that you're still freaking out about whether or not your number's going to get called and get drug tested. If you're taking something you don't have a prescription for. And, I remember even freaking out to myself thinking, oh, my God, I have a prescription for Vicodin, but I'm fucking taking Oxys, I'm taking Perks, I'm taking Dilaudid. I wonder if they can tell the difference. Then I start snorting fucking heroin. Can they tell that? Yes, they can. Now, again, it's not my area of expertise, and I don't ever want to insinuate. We've talked about it on this program before. We're no medical experts, and don't ever want to insinuate we are. What I've read and what I understand is that, yes, the standard drug panel, when you do a test, it'll just determine whether or not there's opiates in a person's system. But they can take it to the next step. So say they see there's opiates in there, then they can break it down and determine what type of opiate. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, if my number gets pulled and they find opiates in my system, I can pull a script for the Vikes. The Norcos, which is a generic Vicodin, but what if they take it a step further and find I got other shit in my system? I'm fucked, In those cases, though, I freaked myself out more than I think I probably should have because most employers would call you in and say, hey, man, clearly you got some kind of problem here. You got 2 options. We're going to get you some help or we got to let you go, bro, and so that's why I was saying, with the whole thing with people from the professional world, man, don't mind fuck yourself into thinking that you can't get help because you're risking your career and your reputation. Yeah, it's going to take a big change and a big decision to get healthy, but what's more important? Your life. So anyway, I don't know, Dean, did that answer your question? Yeah. So there are certain professions where, you're going to be tested. And, that kind of transitions me. I was looking at my notes, and there's something else I wrote down earlier, so clearly I must have wanted to mention this. Remember, y'all, that when we're talking about people who are, struggling with addiction and trying to get out of that madness, these are our brothers, our sisters, our sons, our daughters, our mothers, our fathers, our family, our friends. Dean, you and I are friends, but you're like my brother, for God's sake. I've known you over 25 years. You follow what I'm saying? So,
And yet I had no idea.
yeah. Oh, you know what? Even my own son who lived with me, he knew something wasn't right. But when I finally came clean, so to speak, came out, and was open about it, he was like, God damn, Dad, man, you hid this shit so well. I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't know what. So, yeah, that's what happens, man. We become masters of deception, There's an old saying around the program, we think we're tricking everybody, but the main person we're tricking is our damn self, 'cause we keep thinking, I can handle it,
When you go back to that January photo, the mystery photo, what happened to
the
Glenn,
demon photo,
you know, I recall just a few months after that, I had started I do another podcast, and it was the Modern Day Thrive, and because Glenn, you've always been the Mr. Side Hustle kind of guy.
Yeah.
You've always got a few jobs, kind of,
Yeah, I was going through it
and I
at that
thought,
time,
boy,
yeah.
Glenn would be really good on this show, just to kind of chime in and whatnot. And I'd reach out to you. I think that maybe once or twice you caught just a little bit of one of my shows, and then I kind of go, oh, I got to have you on the show, Glenn, and then you disappear. You
Yeah.
dropped off.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me that you were retiring, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, great,
Yeah.
great, good for you. But the idea was that
You sensed something wasn't
you
right.
just went off grid.
Yeah.
You went off grid. You went dark.
Yeah.
And now I understand 3 years later
Yep.
that you're going dark. There was what you were going through, and
Yeah. And it's interesting you chose the word going dark, because that's where I was, Dean. I was in a very dark place. As I shared on this program last week, oh my God, thank God I don't have to live like that anymore. I would wake up and, near the end of it all, and once I'd like shake the cobwebs away and kind of come to and realize I was awake again, especially on them days where I didn't have any drugs to get my day started, I would literally say out loud, like, God damn, another fucking day I gotta get through, because that's how life had become, and that's how it becomes when you're strung out on that shit. Thank God today I wake up, I'm happy to be alive, healthy, but that's where I was. You're exactly right. I'm glad you used that word. I went dark, because I was in a dark place. Hey, I wanted to mention real quick, we got a lot of people participating in the chat, and I want to assure y'all we are not ignoring you. Thank you so much for joining in live today. So Linda, who was on our show, actually our very first live guest on the show a couple of weeks ago, shared with us that she drives a semi-tractor trailer. So you mentioned school buses, Dean, and Linda does drive semis, transporting goods. And she put up their random drug screens. And yeah, absolutely.
Yep,
Linda, I would imagine that's pretty common in that profession.
I've been self-employed for so many years. I don't have those kind of issues about random drug screening.
Yeah,
but
I see Lori just chimed in too. Yeah,
Lori's been chiming in a lot. Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, Lori shared, and I went back and read the comments that she just celebrated some kind of milestone too. I think, was it 17 months sober or whatever it was? So anyway, congratulations to you, Lori. But where I want to go back to what I was saying earlier is that there is that stigma attached to, addiction, alcoholism, whatever the case may be. And, that's why I was mentioning, man, let's remember, folks, that these are our brothers, our sisters, sons, daughters, mother, father, family, friends, I remember as a kid and a younger man, these images of the drug addict that we were all scared with, of a junkie in the alley behind a dumpster with a needle hanging out of his arm or whatever, and that still goes on. Yeah, of course. There's also those functional addicts, like what you talked about, Dean, that you had no idea. My own son, I was a functional addict until I wasn't anymore. At the end of it, it just became a nightmare because that shit turns on you. And that's what I even shared on the program earlier, last week's edition. I want to say that, man, we're not out here going after people's pain meds who legitimately take the stuff and all that. We're not doing that, And so if someone who is taking pain medications comes across this program and starts, oh, God, here comes the opiate police trying to take my pain meds away. This shit's been a godsend and help me. Hey, if that's you and you can control your use using them the way they're prescribed and all that, hey, more power to you. Do you. Not coming after anybody's pain meds. What I'll also say is, and I like to say this sometimes, I might have been born at night, but not last goddamn night, okay? I know from personal experience and also from all the scientific information out there, whatever you want to call it, that the more you use that shit, the more tolerance you build up, the more you have to take for it to continue to work the way it did when you first started taking it. Opiate medication was never initially intended to be used on a long-term basis. So, for those of us, have been down that road, we know, man, people using that shit, again, if you can continue to use it the way it's prescribed and all that, like I said, more power to you. We also know that, man, you do need more as you continue to use it. And so if you end up down that rabbit hole, like what we're talking about here, please do yourself a favor. And don't get caught up in the whole, ego thing of I can handle it. Because, we hear a lot about this when we talk about addiction, that people have to reach their bottom. You ain't going to help yourself or get clean or sober till you reach bottom. Well, let's talk about that for a second. What is your bottom? How bad does it got to get before you're willing to do something about it? Unfortunately for most addicts, it's got to get pretty fucking bad before people are willing to do something about it. But I had a guy in the program, I get animated, I'm pretending I'm digging with the shovel. And he used to say, Glenn, the bottom is when you stop fucking digging. Throw the shovel down, man. Put it down. Okay, you've reached your bottom, So again, how bad does it got to get? And there's a good transition in my next point. Do you got to end up in a rehab center? Do you got to lose your family, lose your job and career? Get in a fatal wreck, get locked up, some crazy shit like that. Or, when you realize it's affecting your daily life, be willing to say, whoa, man, this shit's getting out of control. I need to put this in check. But do you gotta get arrested? Because that very well can happen too, man. Especially you start copping that shit on the streets or trading with somebody, you're transporting drugs that you don't have a prescription for in your car. Oh, we know what you're doing. Been there, done that. Personal
likely
experience.
That's not going to be a bottom for somebody just getting arrested, because then it's going to be a judge telling you have to do something. You have no choice in the matter, which means, I would think that you would, an average person would just say they would fight it. They would, think,
well,
not me, not, whatever.
That's a great point, Dean. Now, I will say this, there's that phrase people use around the program that they started going to meetings because they got a nudge from the judge. Yeah. And so maybe they got in some legal troubles that were drug related. There are a lot of people I've met in the program who started going to NA meetings, AA meetings, whatever the case may be, because they got in legal trouble and the judge or the court, drug court, which is a whole nother thing we can talk about, that would take up a few episodes of the show, required they go. And they didn't want to go, but they went to keep themselves out of the pokey, right? And then all of a sudden started learning some things and identifying and saying, wow, man, maybe this is, something I want to do. So your point is well taken, Dean. I'll also say there are people who have gotten clean and turned their life around as a result of getting in legal troubles. I've had people share that I've heard at meetings saying getting busted was the best thing that ever happened to them, that it saved their life. And if we have anybody that maybe live with us on the program right now who can relate to that, we'd love to hear
Lori's
from them.
shared a few comments here you might want to double check, and she's saying 15 months, 4/2. I don't know that reference.
Well, I
but,
think that's her clean date. On April 2nd, I think
Oh.
she'll have 15 months. So congratulations to
Congrats.
you, Lori. That's freaking awesome.
She said
Yeah, she says she got
hurt
on
her
the
foot.
pills, so
Yeah,
she hurt her
yeah.
foot, I guess. And but yeah, and that's it.
Been
She
hospitalized,
says, knock on wood,
dead.
she never got arrested though.
She's been hospitalized, dead, but knock on wood, never gonna. What does dead mean?
Well, I don't know. Maybe she OD'd and they had to
Maybe.
revive her and bring her back to life.
She
but
might have. Yeah.
that's the thing, man. Sometimes you just never know when that wake up is going to come. Like I said, everybody's got a different bottom, but if it helps anybody who may be struggling that comes across this program, that statement I shared really helped me. How bad does it got to get? What is your bottom? The ultimate bottom is 6 feet under, and you don't want to end up in that bottom, right? So the
you
bottom
say
is
that.
when you stop digging. Put the shovel down, stop digging. That's your bottom.
We saw that picture of you all beat up,
And that wasn't even my
face
bottom.
plan, or you got
Yeah.
attacked or something.
The demon
And
picture.
and then you say that wasn't your bottom. So
No, it
this
wasn't.
might be for another show, but I think we'd want to really explore really what it took.
Yeah.
What was in
Well-
your mind when you got there?
No,
And
that's
that,
a
like I said, that might be more than.
No, I can share a little bit about it now, but we can talk more about it down the road. I had been trying for a long time to kick, literally for a couple of years, and I just couldn't seem to do it on my own. And it did get to the point where I started to confide in other people, family members. I have 4 sisters, a brother. My close buddy Mark, who I think's watching today, literally like my best friend, one of my best friends, almost like my brother. Anyway, I confided in a lot of people. And they clearly had been communicating about me. And I had like a little mini intervention done, if you will. It was by telephone from a couple of my sisters and my brother. Arranged for this phone call from Detroit, and I was in Orlando because they knew I was trying, man. I was trying. They were aware of that demon photo we showed. I showed it to them, like, this is what's fucking become of me, And there's a long history of that shit in my family, by the way. It's a whole nother story. But anyway, they tried to persuade me to go into a treatment center into detox, and I just wasn't having it for whatever reason. I'm not saying don't do that. And by all means, if that's something you think would help you, please do it. Where I was at in my mindset at the time, I did not want to do that again because I've been in those places before, and they've helped countless people, helped me. I just didn't want to do it again. They persuaded me, and it took me a few days to agree to it. But they persuaded me to fly up to Detroit. Like I jokingly say, most people leave Detroit to get clean. I went back to Detroit and got clean. And I went and stayed with one of my sisters and kicked in her basement. And I remember when I was leaving, talking to my buddy Mark and my son G, too, at the time, saying, hey, y'all, I don't know how this is going to go, man. I might be back in a month. I might be back in a week. I might be back in a few days if this thing turns south. And they were both like, oh, fuck, I hope you don't come back that soon. Thank God I ended up staying in Detroit for 4 months, man. I kicked, started going to meetings on the regular, just got back involved and started getting back in shape again. But I mean, I went back to Florida and visited a couple times and took care of some things, but I literally stayed up in Detroit for 4 months before I went back to my life, if you will, in Orlando, and started working toward getting to where I am now, you know. So, you know, a great question, Dean, and there's obviously a hell of a lot more to that story that I could talk about, but that's kind of the Reader's Digest version in a nutshell.
Okay.
I had an intervention done on me, and man, I'm trying not to get filled up talking about it because they truly saved my life by doing that. And thank God I had enough humility left in me and whatnot to agree to do it. Like I said, it took me a few days. It wasn't like I agreed on the spot, okay, I'm leaving now or anything like that. You know, in fact, I remember even running it by Mark, you know, my buddy Mark saying, man, I don't know, what do you think? You think this is a good idea? And he was like, oh, yeah, this is a good idea, man. I really think you ought to do this, you know. Kind of like you with, you know, when you were trying to help your buddy. So, you know, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, Dean. You know, let's remember, you know, when we're talking about, you know, drug addicts, alcoholics, you know, it's people like me. You know, I'm a good dude. I really am. I'm a good person, man. These are our brothers, our sisters, our sons, our daughters, our mothers, our fathers, our families, our friends. And 8 to 10 of them will have died by the time we wrap up this show in just a little bit, just from an opiate overdose. Just from an opiate overdose. It doesn't include any of the other drugs and all the stuff we're talking about, you know. Where we at on time, Dean? I'm just trying to be conscious of how long we're going with the program today, because I got a whole another couple of things I was going to talk about.
We're going into 90 minutes here.
Okay, yeah. Well, you know what? I am going to save this for the next show because I don't want to, you know, just ramrod through this topic because I was going to talk, I started to talk about, and you had asked, you know, that whole nudge from the judge thing, and just another good reason to get clean, y'all. Yeah, you want to do it for yourself, for your health, for your family. Also, you don't want to fucking get busted, man. That creates a whole nother fucking nightmare. You get into legal problems. Thank God that I never got caught for some of the shit that I was doing because, as I've shared, you know, again, talking about my buddy Mark, he said, Glenn, you begin to lower your standards. You'll do things you never thought in a million fucking years you would do to get more shit. When you're hooked on that shit, man, there's boxes you check off. We call them the yets. Oh, I'll never do that. And then you end up fucking doing it. And that just drives you even further into a depression and the whole addiction because you're thinking, oh, my God, I can't believe I fucking did that. You know, but the point I was going to make is you get yourself into some legal troubles, and then you got a nightmare. And then think about this. And if you're watching this program and you're going through it and you're struggling with trying to come out the other end, I guarantee you've thought about this. What are you going to do if you get busted and you got to go through withdrawals in jail? You got to detox and go through it in jail. That ain't going to be fun at all. Most incarceration facilities ain't going to do shit for you. They probably, pardon the pun, throw you a roll of toilet paper because you will start shitting when that stuff starts getting out of your system, and it ain't no fun, man. Like we talked about, you know, on the second edition of this show, all the symptoms of being dope sick. You're going to be shaking, the cold sweats, the restless leg and arm syndrome, and feel like you're crawling out of your skin, puke and shit, all that stuff. You want to go through that in a jail cell? Well, there is a program that I don't want to run through it today. We'll talk more about it in an upcoming edition of the show in Seminole County in Central Florida. Sheriff Lima, Dennis Lima, man, I'd love to have him as a guest on the show because they have what I'll call a very compassionate program in place there for drug addicts, and specifically people going through opiate addiction. Again, not to get too far into it, but if they're called on like an overdose, they have a follow-up program. They call it the SCORE program, Seminole Collaborative Opioid Response Efforts is what it stands for. And then they have this Accepting Change Through Treatment program, where, again, it's compassionate toward people who are locked up, going through withdrawals, things like that. Very, very innovative, forward-thinking program. It's been in place for a long time, by the way. So we'll talk more about that on an upcoming show. Before we wrapped up, I did want to look over at some of the comments again. It looks like Lori chimed in again, because I don't want to freak people out. She said she died, and
They revived her.
knock
Yeah.
on wood, never got arrested. But then she wrote that they revived her. So
Oh,
we're not
Laura,
quite-
you have to tell us a story.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
we-
sounds like a story.
we want to hear the rest of the story. Was
Yeah.
it like from a drug overdose, or
We're
or
getting little
what
tidbits,
happened?
and we want more.
Yeah, but hey, we're glad they revived you, and we're
Yes.
glad you're still with us, and we're thrilled to death, pardon the pun, to hear that you're coming up on 15 months clean and sober on April 2nd. That is awesome, and again, another example for anybody who may be struggling that came across this program watching today, that it can be done. You can get through it.
Well, you're
So,
sparking all kinds of bravery here. I mean, Lori's coming out. I mean,
Yeah.
she's probably already come out socially, but definitely now, and others. I'm starting to see a lot more in social media. People like talking about whether it's opioids or,
Yeah.
other things that people are actually, publicly confessing their addictions or their recoveries. And
Yeah, well, you know what, Dean, with the statistics the way they are, as I've shared on previous edition of the program, if it hasn't affected you personally, I don't think there's many families out there that haven't been affected in some way, even if it's indirectly, whether it's, one of their close family members, or a cousin or a niece or a nephew or the next door neighbor, whoever the hell it is. I think we all know of someone, who has got caught up in this madness. And as I've said before, this shit ain't gone away, y'all. It hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse. When COVID hit, it was really taken, high profile in the media and all before COVID hit real hard. And then when COVID hit, it kind of went on the back burner. COVID's kind of, it ain't gone completely, but is pretty much not, like the main story you hear on the news every day anymore. But meanwhile, through all of that, the opioid epidemic has gotten worse because of fentanyl and all the other things involved in it. So, yeah, Dean, you make a good point, and it needs to remain part of the conversation. And so all the more reason, bro, I want to say thank you to you again, Dean, for agreeing to work with me on this program and do all the behind the scenes stuff, keep us on the air live, and helping me with all the stuff we do off the air, keeping this program posted and all.
Yeah.
I'm looking...
we want the full story, Lori. She's sending more tidbits.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll get Lori on the program next week where we can talk to her and
Oh.
ask her some questions about it. But, I don't want to go on too much longer, because if we've been going an hour and a half, that's a long time to try to keep somebody's attention. And, in this world of... what we call micro content, which, hey, I'm the same as the rest of us, man. We get on TikTok. If you ain't got my attention in 5 to 10 seconds on a video, next I'm scrolling through, But for this program, we obviously are talking about a very important and specific topic. Hopefully keep people's attention for an hour and a half into it. I mean, y'all know me. I'm never at a loss for words. I keep talking about it, especially these topics, for another couple of hours. But we won't hold you hostage much longer. Just to recap a few things. Dean, I'm glad you put that graphic up. Please, if you're watching us live, or even you see the recorded version after we're not live anymore, please do like, share, follow this podcast. I went into the analytics of one of our pages, Dean, and the Dare Me page, and I saw we have something like 800 followers, and it's like, I don't know who these people are.
Really?
I got a little over 700 friends on my Facebook profile, and believe it or not, I do know every freaking one of them people in some way or another, even if it's just a brief encounter. I don't just randomly add people. But I'd like to get over 1,000 people on there, because then I guess it helps boost the post or something. I'm still learning this whole thing, But yeah, man, we're getting out there. We're definitely getting out there and getting followers, doing a lot of the promo reels for this show. I've been getting some good feedback. Man, you get creative doing them reels. You try to pick music where the lyrics match whatever photo you got and all that shit, but it's so freaking time consuming doing that shit. And I was going to mention, by the way, I posted this morning, Dean, that reel, we're using an AI service now, artificial intelligence, to generate short clips from the programs to put out there on like TikTok and different platforms to help promote the show. And it just blows my mind that, this software, this AI software can do all this shit, man. AI is coming, bro. It's already
it's out
here.
there. It's not 100%, but it's out there, So
yeah. But it was
that's for
kind
a
of cool
different type
seeing that clip. So we're going to start putting more stuff like that out there. But again, to recap, yes, if you come across this program, whether it's live right now or recorded version that you may see, we appreciate anything you can do to help us get it out there. And the likes and the shares. I know my boy Steve from East Detroit follows me. He's been sharing it, which I appreciate, bro. Hope y'all doing well over at the East Side, Illinois. Best home group in the world. Anyways, yeah, please like, follow, share, do all the things. And then, as Dean has in this little ticker going by, just friendly reminder, we're going to change the times that we go live starting next week. And I think it's going to work out better for everybody, including the viewers. Give them a little bit later into the evening. So we'll go 6 o'clock here on the West Coast, where I'm at in Sacramento, 9 o'clock on the East Coast, where Dean's at in Orlando, and wherever you may be. So I think that brings us full circle. I think we did a pretty good edition of the show, wouldn't you say, Dean?
Oh, great conversation and great response from the
Yeah,
peanut
thank
gallery.
you. We had a lot of people participate and chime in today, and I appreciate it. We next week, let's see if we can get some people back on live where we have them on camera. And at the very least, maybe a phone call. The chat's great. I love watching the chat, man. We had a lot of people. Hey, my boy Dearmew chimed in. Linda, Lori, Steph, Carol, Shivang. I mean, a lot of people on the chat here. So thank you, everybody who participated live. And then, I didn't mention it at all today, but we do have some really cool guests lined up on the show. Dean and I talked about this. We're still working a couple little technical things out. Like today, I forgot to freaking unmute my mic right out of the gate. But we'll get there, man, So once we got about 5 or 6 of these in the can, then I'll start bringing the guests in. And I think y'all are really, really going to dig some of the guests that we got lined up, man. There's some really cool people who have agreed to be on the show, who are just fascinating people that are really going to be able to talk to us about these topics. So anyhow, that's it from here for now. Dean, you got anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
I'm having fun.
Okay.
This is fun for me.
Bro, I appreciate it again. And one more thing. I'm going to just do one more thing before I know always something else. Like the true drug-free attitude is like one is too many, 1,000 never enough. One more thing I did want to mention is I just want to plug you a little bit, Dean. Dean is doing all the production work and behind-the-scenes stuff for this podcast. And Dean and I have been colleagues and friends and brothers working together for, over 25 years. But Dean has a studio, Post Effects Digital Studio in Central Florida in West Orange County. And if somebody's watching this program, maybe you want to do a podcast. Maybe you got a topic that you thought about doing, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be this topic. It could be whatever you might have had in mind. Dean and his colleagues be more than happy to help you with that. If you need any kind of videography work done, webcasts for a convention, a conference, a business expo, whatever it may be, I just can't recommend working with Dean enough. I've worked with him on so many projects over the years. And, bro, again, I really want to tell you how much I appreciate you working with me on this show. So.
Well, I just kind of threw it in the comments here, hashtag PFX Media. Some of you are watching it right now on YouTube. In fact, YouTube is getting about half our audience tonight. So
Great.
So yeah, thanks for your all participation.
Yeah, we don't want to turn it into a sales pitch, but I also want to put a plug out there for you. So,
thank you very much.
Well, I think we're done.
Yep.
Just want to say, everybody, stay safe. Keep fighting the good fight. Thanks for tuning in and watching. We hope this program was beneficial to those of y'all that did participate. And again, if you see the recorded version, same thing. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to the Dare Me podcast.